Okay, coming up on the start here. This is Ketura with the Players Council, and today I will be streaming the June World Championship circuit that will be played in the PC movie format. This will be a Swiss tournament. The exact number of rounds is going to depend on exactly how many players that we have. Right now there are 11 people in the queue, which means that I believe it should be 4 rounds, which will take about 2 hours for us to play through. If we end up with more than 16 players, then it will get bumped up to 5 rounds. But for now, looks like we're holding still, holding steady. So that will be starting here in just about a minute and a half at 1700 UTC sharp. So as soon as that time gets hit, we'll have a 1-minute delay, and then all of the tables will open, and we will start taking a look. Oh ho, and Basmelis is giving away what he's doing. So Basmelis, the world champion, has been sweeping these tournaments, coming in first in almost every event that he has participated in. So almost as a self-handicap this time, he is letting everybody know what his deck is, and he actually let us talk him into what he was going to play for this particular event. So he'll be a little bit on the back foot. He says that he's going to be playing a ring-bound ranger deck with only 3 non-ring-bound ranger companions in it, with an Isengard Shadow. So we should be seeing that here in just a moment. Okay, 12 players. I think that's about as many as we're going to get unless we get somebody here in the last 10 seconds before it begins. Nice round, even number. Okay, event will be beginning with 12 players. So looking at the roster here, Mozdref was in the event earlier this morning for the EU tournament, as well as Wingfoot. I believe... I could have sworn that someone else was in Olin. They were also there. Basmelis. These are all people that were playing earlier during the EU time zone, and now we've got the American time zone one. Everyone is, of course, welcome to join any of these events. They're just scheduled to try and be more convenient to people in different time zones. So with 12 players, there shouldn't be any buys, which is always good. First round buy is always a little bit of a bummer. So we shall see what players have cooked up. Basmelis will be playing off meta. Will be he the only one? We'll have to see here in just a moment as soon as these tables kick off. All right. 6 tables. I'm going to be running myself ragged trying to keep track of all these. Let's see. So we have Skilled and Enolan. We have Balrog 69 versus Stefan 77. We have Distali versus Myth Lauder. Basmelis versus Zolez. And then we have Mozdref versus Wingfoot 81. And we have FNL Groove versus Weak Sauce. Those of you who may not be familiar with PC formats, in PC Movie, we play with multipath rules. And so you can see that these individuals each start the game with a map card that defines which site path they will be using. So many people like to utilize the Fellowship site path for many of its powerful effects. A lot of people resort to the King path because of familiarity, because basic Decipher movie uses King path. And then, of course, there are people that use the Towers path for whatever utility it may bring. So as we can see here, we have a pretty good mix. Lots of people playing Fellowship. There's 1 King. We had a couple of Towers. There's a 3rd Towers. So there's a pretty good mix all across the board here. So here's a mirror match where we have 2 people playing Return of the King path, and so they are going to be pretty much in a mirror match just as if they were playing a Decipher movie in that respect. In addition to those changes, there are several PC rule changes that are different from the regular Decipher movie. In particular, the game does not end right at the end of the skirmishes. Instead, each player has a last few regroup actions that they can play, so that Shadow does have that last hurrah that they can perform. We also have discard piles are public information on both sides, so you can click and you can inspect your own discard pile and your opponent's. which is really just kind of pointing out the fact that this is a digital platform. This is where everyone plays. Like you can track what's in the discard pile anyway using the log. So that's just making it fair for everybody. And then, of course, set V1 and V2 and all PC errata are legal. So we are going to be seeing some wonderful changes. So there you can see that Legolas here with the slash in the upper left and the date in the lower left indicating when it was errated. We have errated Greenleaf. We have errated a number of cards. A few hundred at this point, I believe. So we're just going to be hopping in and out of some of these tables because it is kind of difficult to track and see what exactly is going on. If we find an interesting one, we'll stick with it for a while. Balrog69 here is playing a Rohan deck. Looks like a Valiant Rohan deck. This is the V2 Aragorn with his excuse me, with his Valiant interaction. V2 had a lot of Valiant stuff going on. Okay, and so we have one of the Flenish cards coming out. Balrog69 has played so much Twilight worth of stuff that Ritual Oath of Enmity was able to be played. This says, while you can spot 18 Twilight tokens in Region 1, this card can be played from your draw deck. And so they played it immediately to get that benefit. So later on, during their Shadow phase, they're going to be able to utilize this this card to take over a bunch of sites all at once, just to take advantage of that Twilight that has been flooded. That's now something that you have to be very careful of. If you hit that 18 Twilight threshold, you could be threatened by a number of different cards. There's one for each Shadow culture, all of which having a variety of effects. So here Stefan has his Dunlanding deck here. We've got Arrow Slits coming out to discard Hides, was it? Yeah, so Arrow Slits can get rid of a possession or a machine, and Hides is the very infamous Dunlanding ability that allows you to protect your Dunlandings from getting wounded just by spending Twilight. So you want to get that off the field so that you can actually do anything about them. They all universally have low vitality, of course. So without that protection, it's only going to be a couple of hits to take each one of them down. And that's particularly relevant here with Freka. Freka takes control of a site if you can spot another Dunland man when you play him, which they did here. But if he dies, then it gets liberated. And so all it will take is one knock on the head there, and he'll go down, and the site will get liberated, and the Dunlandings will lose their progress. So here we have Theoden, Tall and Proud. He's valiant, comes as a valiant individual, of course, and that's going to have a lot of interactions here. V2 has quite a few cards that care about that. Burn Every Village being used to push him up over the Overwhelm threshold, and there goes Theoden. Looks like Balrog, for all the cards that were played on the table, did not have a way of keeping him alive. Okay, so when Theoden dies, you have that ability with the ability to pull a companion out of your draw deck, and so it looks like Eowyn, Lady of Ithilien, was pulled out. So at least Theoden manages to replace himself, and quite honestly, that might have been the point why he was included at all. So down here in the support area, we can see quite a few cards that are from V2 that had a very large Rohan and Isengard emphasis. We have Royal Guard here that is Ring Bearer protection. It says exert this ally to add his strength to a skirmishing hobbit and make that hobbit gain valiant until the regroup phase. Limit once per phase, and so you can use this to keep Frodo alive. You can only get him down if you have Theoden or 3 Rohan men, so you do have to have that Rohan investment. But that is one of the major weaknesses that Rohan used to have, was that they didn't really have any good ring bearer interaction, at least in movie, because of course from a story perspective, Frodo never met any of the Rohirrim, right? Like they never crossed paths, and so I guess Decipher was unwilling to make cards that would interact too much with the ring bearer. They did, of course, in the expanded era, in some of the later sets, have some ring bearer interaction, but that was well after the movie era. So now we're switching back over to Stefan77, who is also running a Valiant setup here, rather than so the Eowyn, Lady of Ithilien, is not Valiant, but this one is Sister Daughter of Theoden, and then we have the V2 Theoden coming out. He's strength +1 for each other Valiant companion assigned to a skirmish, which means that you kind of want him going first. And then there's another V2 card, Erkenbrand, Kinsman of the House of Errol. When you play Erkenbrand, you may remove up to 3 non-unique Rohan companions in the dead pile from the game. I don't know if there were any. Doesn't look like there were. But of course, that does let him come in late, and if you have sacrificed any of your various non-unique weenies, you can use him to bolster you back up. So now we have Harrogrim coming out. Harrogrim has an errata. Both versions of Harrogrim are now artifacts to make it more difficult for Shadow to get rid of that vitality once it's played on Theoden. The errata that's on armor here is not particularly relevant. Rather than saying just Bearer must be a man, it's also Bearer may be a Gondor companion, which means that it will also work on Gondor wraiths. And Balrog here is befittingly playing Moria Balrog, which is something that has been going around in PC Movie for a while now, where people are using the V2 Balrog and repeatedly playing it as frequently as they can. Out comes the sword. We have the Dark Places, also Whip of Many Thongs going on him. So now we've got a damage +2 Fierce Balrog that is able to get rid of armor and helms. 22 strength because of the weapons and the Dark Places, so this is looking to be a pretty fearsome beast. Gollum Darkest Darkness, just using his ability to exert the Ring Bearer, start adding a little bit of attrition. But it's really the Balrog that's going to be doing some damage here. Anybody that isn't able to get up to 11 strength, or get up to 12 strength rather, is going to be immediately overwhelmed. So we do have Firefoot that is going to be able to get Eomer up to 11, but he'll need a little bit more if he's going to survive. And if he uses any special abilities to do so, this Balrog says each time the Free People's player uses a skirmish special ability during a skirmish involving the Balrog, you may wound a companion in his skirmishing. And actually, since he is damage +2 as it is, that's 3 wounds that's going to be going down. Eomer will just straight up die unless there is some way of mitigating the wounds on the table. Yep, that's going to be tricky. Erkenbrand himself might be going down here. If Eowyn could somehow get pumped up, then you could sacrifice cards from hand to peel off some of those wounds from the Balrog, but she's pretty far away. And Stefan only has 3 cards left in hand, so that would only work for 1 wound anyway. Yeah, at this point I think it's pretty much a matter of deciding who's going to die. You could put Host of Moria on Eomer, and Eomer will survive just fine, but the Balrog is probably going to eat 2 people, and you have to decide who it is. Just looking at the field, it seems to me that Eowyn and Erkenbrand are the ones to sacrifice to the Balrog, but at the same time, that's also going to remove one of the valiant characters, and that's not a fantastic position to be in. Another option, since we do have the Tale of the Great Ring here on the table, you could, in theory, throw the Balrog at Frodo and then let him take 3 wounds. He's, of course, got the vitality for it, and there are not very many Moria skirmish events, particularly because there aren't any that really interact well with the Balrog. Of course, you are taking that risk because people are aware that Tale of the Great Ring exists, and so sometimes they include events not because they're going to necessarily need them or rely on them, but specifically to activate Tale of the Great Ring's prevention clause, which can be completely nullified if a shadow event is played during that skirmish. Not taking the risk, that's probably wise. Looks like Theoden is going to beat down Gollum, and then we have, Host of Moria going up against Eomer, who's going to take a lump. But Eowyn is going to valiantly sacrifice herself to the Balrog. it is possible to get Éomer over that threshold, I think. But you have to wonder whether or not you really want to be using any of those resources when Balrog69 here has communicated that she is in fact going to be playing with Balrog, so you want to hold on to some of those resources for later, because this is not a one and done minion. He's going to be coming back to bite them over and over and over again. You know what? I almost forgot about my soundboard yet again. Let's see.
Follow you fools.
Just imagine that that's Éowyn saying it. So who is going to be sacrificed next? Erkenbrand definitely appears to me to be the least involved character. Not all the rest of them are either Third Marshal Rittermark, who is of course a beast, or one of the Valiant keystones to a Valiant deck. So that seems like the shoe-in to me. Yep, there it goes. So there we have it. 2 dead companions on Site 4. Not something you really want to see, of course, but it's also not insurmountable. They weren't central characters to this deck, I don't think. So we shall see what happens. A Wizard's Never Late being used to pull out Gandalf Lathspell, also a V2 card. Each mounted companion gains Valiant, and each time a minion's special ability is used, except during a skirmish, you may spot 3 Valiant companions and exert Gandalf to prevent that. So right now they have 1 Valiant companion on the table. So until, oh no, hang on. If there's a horse on, okay, there's a horse on Éomer, so he counts as well. So there are now 2 Valiant companions. So for Lathspell to get online, he's going to need a 3rd, which is probably just going to be in the form of another horse on somebody. Here now we have Balrog once again flooding the flooding the pool, and so another copy of Ritual Oath of Enmity is being played to getting played from the draw deck, since they are still in Site 3. The first copy of Ritual Oath being used to take a single to control a single site, and so now that's all you need for the Dunlending Elder to come online. While you control 2 sites, this minion is Strength +5, Fierce, and Damage +1. So a 12 Strength Dunlander that is going to be able to hand out 2 wounds by himself. By himself, he's not all that much, but if you get a friend or 2, they could really start to cause problems here. We also had Over the Eisen getting played, which has spot a site you control and remove 2 to assign a Dunland man to an unbound companion. We have plenty of Twilight here, so these Dunlanding Elders may be able to go and start picking off some of these weaker companions, Mary and Sam. Get them taken care of. We also have War Club. Each time bearer wins a skirmish, you may discard 2 free people's possessions, meaning that if he comes over here and he takes out, well no, he can't go on Sam actually, because Sam isn't unbound, but he could go over here, take out Mary, and then you could guarantee that the War Club gets rid of, say, this Javelin and this horse. Interesting. He goes on the strong character. So Aragorn, I mean, 8 strength is pretty far from 14. It's unlikely that he's going to win. Okay, 12 strength against 7. Damage +1. So we have that Mary getting discarded. Return him to your hand to play up to 2 Rohan possessions from your discard pile. So here comes a Horse of Rohan. And maybe... is that the one that heals? There's one that heals. Brago, perhaps? No, that was the only thing in the discard pile. So we have Dark Fury coming out. make a Dunland man strength +2 or +4 if at a sanctuary, which they are, which pushes them up to the overwhelm threshold, and Aragorn has to use his ability, Exert Aragorn, to make a skirmishing companion strength +2, and that's enough to put him within death range. So this Dunlanding Elder wins, and then his War Club gets to get rid of some possessions. He decides to get rid of both of them on Éomer. I think it might have been a better idea to go for both horses to ensure that Lathspell is not valiant. But then again, we have Over the Eisen assigning to anybody they want. It may not even matter. This is quite the bloodbath already. The flood insurance here is showing why it's named such. It is extremely dangerous to be flooding the pool quite so much, right? Especially in Region 1 now, when people can pull out cards that will immediately start punishing that hubris. And as Stefan77 has excellently demonstrated here, how to utilize those advantages and punish your opponent for them. Things are looking pretty bad for Balrog now. She definitely had her opponent on the back foot with how many people have been killed, but now her opponent has outdone her. All of these companions are very important, especially Lathspell, and the fact that all of them are now gone does not bode well. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7 companions total. There's only 2 more that can be played on her side. That may be asking a bit much. But then again, it's not like Stefan77 appears to have all the answers to be able to fend off the literal Balrog either, so we shall see who falls first. This is going to be a race to the bottom, folks. We're going to have to see who manages to survive. So we have 3 copies now of Thundering Host. Discard this condition to make a mounted Rohan man, strength +3, and heal that man if out of planes. All of those, however, will trigger the Balrog's text. And here we go. We have the Bridge of Khazad-dûm coming out from Balrog's own Path of the Fellowship. So we have another copy of Balrog. And interestingly, a Goblin Armory. Normally you don't see the Armory with this solo Balrog setup. But I can totally see how that would work, interacting with the Balrog swords and the Whip of Many Thongs that you might want to play. Also mixed with some of the more classic Moria elements, such as They Are Coming, discarding 3 cards from hand to pull out a beefy individual. In this case, Host of Moria once again, who will be able to play a Moria card from the discard pile. Although I don't think that they have the classic Scimitar setup in there, so there's nothing that can be afforded, unfortunately. Would have been real nice to be able to pull one of those swords or something out, but the Twilight just wasn't there. So now Stefan has another problem of needing to deal with all these problems. The runner's obviously not much of an issue, but the Host of Moria and the Balrog was exactly what got them all killed last time. Now this time the Balrog does not have the sword and whip, so the overwhelm threshold is now 10. Like 9 will get them overwhelmed, so 10 is safety if they can get anybody to 10. Éomer would naturally get him to 10, but the Balrog being damage +1 would be enough to kill him with how much vitality he has left. Now, since that Goblin Runner is on the field, if you have Theoden up against the Balrog, and you have Host and Runner assigned to someone else, and you make Theoden go first, Theoden is going to be strength 10. Which would be enough, and with his vitality, it would be enough for him to survive an attack from the Balrog. Instead, we have Aragorn. Oh, Aragorn has armor. Yes. That's going to make the big difference. So if you can possibly utilize that to absorb any of the damage +1, that is definitely something you want to be doing. So he's going to exert, and then the Balrog's ability is going to wound him. However, that's then going to be the last wound that he takes this skirmish. Barra takes no more than 1 wound during each skirmish phase. So now the Balrog's going to win, but that's going to be water off a duck's back, right? The problem, however, is that now you got to do it a second time. Honestly, I think perhaps it would have been better to have Theoden take that first lump, because now Aragorn is going to take another wound, and that's going to be enough for him to go. The winnowing continues. I don't know if Stefan 77's Fellowship is going to be able to survive another sight of that. But then again, it's not like Balrog's sight is doing all that much, or Fellowship is doing all that much either. Now we do have this V1 sight coming into play on that site 3. Exert an unbound companion to make one of another culture, strength +1 until the end of the turn, limit +6. And so here we have Merry exerting himself 3 times, just played from hand, to ensure that Eowyn is strength 9. Then we have Sam, Resolute Halfling, his ability being used. If you have initiative, discard a card from hand to heal Sam. Really, that's just being used for the discard, I think, in this case, obviously, since he's not healed up at all. We have a Hides coming down, and no arrow slits to take care of it this time. Hillman Tribe coming out. Each time this minion wins a skirmish, you may spot another Dunland man to take control of a site. Although they've already hit that threshold of 2, and that's all that Dunland really needs. While we're waiting on this, I'm just going to do a brief zip through all these tables and then come back to this one. So Distali versus Mythlotter. Looks like they're on site 7. We've got ourselves a... let me refresh because it looks like there was a timeout down there. So yeah, it looks like we have a mostly pure elf wounding deck over here up against... well, kind of a wizard valiant deck going on the other side. Looks like Basmelis versus Slaws has already won. Basmelis winning with his declared Isengard side. Seems to be doing pretty good. And then we have Mosdrev versus Wingfoot has already ended as well. Looks like it ended in a corruption win for Wingfoot. Looks like both of them are running corruption decks, and one of them it came down to a single burden. Lovely. And then here we have FNL Groove versus Weak Sauce. Looks like FNL Groove is running Beasterlings, just like Basmelis was earlier today, up against a pure Knight deck. So that looks like it's interesting as well. And then Skilled versus Enolan we were looking at before. Looks like this is very much a Dwarf deck. A Dwarf and Hobbit deck up against Elves and Estelle versus Nazgul. So that's looking interesting. But let's hop on back to our Stefan and Balrog game. So we have Wolf and that Hillman Tribe from earlier coming on out. Now we have Eowyn's ability here. Exert Eowyn to choose an opponent. That opponent must wound a minion for each wound on each minion skirmishing Eowyn. So he chose to kill Wolf. And so now we have this tribe up against Merry. But Merry, it seems, has bounced his last bounce. And there's no one here to save him. So off he goes. And then War Club is going to come out and get rid of Eowyn's sword, which is adding more tokens over here to Now for Wrath. Every time you lose an item, a Rohan item or Rohan ally, then you get to add a token there. And then each time a minion is exerted by a Free People's card, you may remove 2 Rohan tokens here and exert a Valiant Companion to wound that minion. Which is great and all, but Dunlandings have a very low amount of vitality, and so it's actually not possible to exert many of them because they just don't have it. It's one of the many ways in which Dunlandings counter Rohirrim is by making sure that none of their various exertion effects actually do anything. So here we have the confusingly named Leowen coming out as well. If you have initiative, discard 2 cards from hand to heal a Rohan man. Definitely coming in clutch here. We do not have very much vitality on these 2 fighters. Eomer in particular. Oh, now he's got armor. Okay, so we had that armor before that was coming in. We now have Do Not Trust a Hope, which is another V2 card. Bearer must be a Rohan companion. Bearer is Valiant. At the start of the regroup phase, wound bearer or discard this condition. Now, Theoden was already valiant, of course, but that +2 strength isn't nothing, especially now when every point matters. All right, Wormtongue coming out. Oh no, exert Grima and spot an unbound companion bearing 3 or more cards to return each Free People's card that companion bears to its owner's hand. We have both Eomer and Theoden having violated this. Grima is an infamous example of a meta-bending card, and here now he's going to completely waste all their hopes. 3 cards on Eomer going back to hand, 3 cards on Theoden going back to hand. Stefan is now sitting here with an 8-card hand, 6 of which are cards that he doesn't want to get rid of, but if he doesn't, then next turn, Balrog is going to get away with a going up against a hand that has almost no shadow cards in it. We've actually got our eyes on Grima. He's going to be affected by a change that we are going to be implementing here in the not so distant future, actually. Probably after the World Championship is when we'll really have some of the stuff released, ready to go. But that is the long alluded to hinder mechanic, which is going to introduce a new mechanic that allows you to, rather than discard a card or return it to hand, hinder flips the card face down and just makes it unusable until its owner reconciles. And then once you reconcile, you take all your hindered cards and you flip them back face up. And so Grima is one of those cards that's going to get altered to be hinder instead. So he can come in and he can hinder all 3 of those cards that are on you, but not necessarily get rid of them permanently and not clog your hand and force you into a situation where now Stefan 77, he did get rid of Symbol Lumine, but he kept those other 6 cards that he was given, and so now there's only 2 cards that could, in his hand that could possibly be Shadow. Balrog here playing Radagast, giving herself the move limit +1. This may be a good time to run because she knows that hand over here is completely clogged. And that is the primary reason why Grima is so toxic, is because of that hand clogging. Not necessarily because of the effect, but if it was just discard, it wouldn't be nearly as powerful. So here's one of those 2 cards, a Hillman Tribe coming out. But there is at most 1 more shadow card in Stefan's hand. So the Ritual Oath being utilized, taking control of 2 more sites just to emphasize that, okay, like I may not be threatening you with minions right now, but we're going to make sure that when your reckoning finally comes, it's going to hurt. This is probably going to be the easiest double decision to make, yes. Now, Radagast is, of course, going to permit her opponent to discard 2 cards from hand to draw 2. But Stefan does not want to get rid of any of those Free People's cards that he's got in his hand. So this is possibly the best use of Radagast that you could possibly have. Put yourself in a situation where the downside is not something your opponent even wants to take advantage of. Interesting. Wolf going up against Sam. Oh, right. Royal Guard can be used on Sam too. It's not just the ring bearer, it is a skirmishing hobbit. Here we go, that guard coming in, helping him out, making him valiant. Not that it matters with what's on the table, but... So now the real question is, the move limit is +1. Balrog has the opportunity here to run to 7. Do you do it? Oh, right, Wolf is fierce, so... Sam and the Royal Guard end up needing to work overtime. I think that sort of underlines, though, that it's probably a bad idea to take another move. It would be very risky, and Stefan's on the back foot, right? All those wounds are going to be peeled away by the Sanctuary. 5 wounds getting cleaned off of companions. And then we are likely to see all 6 of those come back down. Armor, however, this time going on Theoden instead of on Éomer. You can see that pause where he considered, maybe I don't put all of these cards. So now we're seeing more of these cards shifted over to Theoden. So now Éomer is impervious to another Wormtongue if it comes down, and it would only be Theoden that would take it out. That would be taken out by that. We have 3 Goblin Armories here on the table. The Darkness Grew, a V1 card, which allows you to stack Moria items on there and then spot the Balrog to take them back. And here comes that big bad Balrog. So here now, especially, I think this is going to be where that armor on Theoden is going to shine. Theoden is going to be able to go up against the Balrog easily. Oh no, but here comes the whip getting pulled out by Host of Moria, and the whip allows him to discard an armor. So now the fact that that armor is on Theoden is a liability. Now, it may still make sense to make Theoden the one that goes up against him, solely because he has more vitality and he's going to have that strength boost from everyone else being assigned. But we've also got quite a few minions coming out. We have these runners that are going to start dogpiling on Frodo. There's no Royal Guard on the side of Stefan. This may be it. Host of Moria on Éomer. Or no. Theoden on Host of Moria. Éomer on the Balrog. Wait a minute. So 9, 10, 11. Yeah, so Éomer will survive a fight with the Balrog. Theoden will survive against the Host of Moria. But will Frodo be able to survive against 17 strength worth of goblins? Oh yes, in fact, we do have the Tale of the Great Ring here on the table. So if Balrog has a skirmish event, then that will get completely nullified. But if not, then that's a dead Frodo. Oh right, so Éomer here is Defender +1 because of Firefoot. Completely missed that. I mean, it's not going to make much of a difference here when it comes to the Overwhelm threshold, because 4 strength for Frodo is not very much. 3 base and +1 from the ring. So in this case, you may as well do Theoden first, because he is the one that... Oh no, we're doing Frodo first. Oh, and I guess it's only Valiant Companions that count for Theoden's game text, so I suppose there's not actually anything to be done there. So Tale of the Great Ring being burned to keep Frodo alive. Éomer just barely staying out of Overwhelm range by putting that exertion there on the Host of Moria from his mount. And then his own game text, of course, making him strength +2 for each wound on each minion. There goes the Whip of Many Thongs, getting rid of that armor. 19 strength to 10, just barely outside of Overwhelm range. But now they got to deal with the Balrog yet again. This absolute menace has been harrying them ever since Site 2. Now that there are 3 wounds on the Balrog, though, Éomer, his strength was fine, but his vitality was not. And so Éomer finally goes down. Do not trust a hope being discarded. Because, of course, as we all know, hope has forsaken these lands. It's now down to Theoden and Frodo. How many people are dead? We have 4 dead companions. So there's 3 more companion slots that Stefan could still fill. Balrog, on the other hand, seems to be doing okay. You got 5 dead companions and 4 on the field, so this is as many companions as we're going to see. The rule of 9 does not permit any more to be had. Now, Balrog ditching a bunch of cards from her hand, using both Leowyn and Sam's ability to heal everybody up. She's now down to just 2 cards in hand. We do have a Javelin and Brago on Eowyn, and then we have Sting on Sam, which could very well come in handy with something like the Dunlending Elder if he can survive. We have Ready to Fall over here. Spot 2 sites you control and remove 2 to play a Dunlending Man from your discard pile. That's those elders. Those elders are just going to come out over and over and over again. Yep. This is getting pretty dangerous here. So Radagast can tank one of these. Eowyn can tank another. Sam can get rid of one if he stays alive using the Royal Guard and then uses the ability on Sting to add a threat to discard the Dunlending Elder. That'll keep them alive for another skirmish phase. Oh no, it's only for the fierce skirmish, not the regular. Oh, I forget. I got myself twisted around on that. That's too many wounds. It's the damage plus 1 that's really causing the issue here. Okay, so we're spreading those wounds around a little bit. We're putting a burden on Frodo using the ring to pump him up to 5 strength, and then we have the Royal Guard coming in to get him over that overwhelm threshold. And then those 2 wounds are turning to burdens. Eowyn falls. Radagast is going to fall. We're down to just 2 companions on both sides. Now, there's always the opportunity to sacrifice Frodo and chip the ring to Sam. However, that really relies on there being a games aboard state that allows you to do anything at all. So Kingsmail going on Theoden. Bear takes no more than 1 wound during each skirmish phase. If Bear is Theoden, he may not take wounds except during a skirmish involving him. Basically saying, well, if you have a Grima right now, I'm doomed anyway, so we may as well throw this armor on here. Unfortunately, as armor, it can be countered by Whip of Many Thongs. Gollum eating those burdens and turning them into 1 twilight apiece. And from Deepest Dungeon, recycling the Balrog. Here he comes again. Then we have They Are Coming being used to put pressure on the Free People's player just with a measly Goblin Runner. But that Frodo doesn't have anything for him. There's no Royal Guard, no sword, no nothing. So that may be all it takes. And then Foul Things being used. That's with the PC errata that allows you to pull anything at all out. Using Foul Things to pull the Balrog's sword. And it looks like we have ourselves a concession from Stefan77. The Balrog eating far too many people. Om nom nom nom. Okay, well, let's see. Most of the other games have finished. It looks like we're down to just 1 more here. A game between Skilled. Oh no, did Skilled just time out? Skilled just timed out. We got here just in time to watch the chess clock run down to 0. Gotta watch that clock. Okay, alright, so that is the first round all done. Let's take a look at the standings. So we have Inolin, Balrog 69, Besmelis, Distali, Wingfoot 81, and FNL Groove all won their matches. While Skilled, Stefan 77, Zolez, Weak Sauce, Mozdrev, and Myth Lauder are all on the bottom half. But it's not over yet. We'll have to see exactly how things go. Now, of course, everyone expects Besmelis to end up at the top. I believe he's been at the top of every single one of these events so far this year. Every one that he has joined, he has gone undefeated. Will there be anyone here that has the deck that will finally take him down? Would be nice to see. I'm telling you guys, I'm getting pretty tired of engraving Besmelis' name on stuff, you know? Let's have some variety for once. but it's y'all that are going to have to rise to the occasion. Okay, so we have Skilled versus Weak Sauce. We have Distali versus Enolin. We have Stefan77 versus Zolez. Basmelis versus Wingfoot. Balrog69 versus FNL Groove. And Mozdref versus Mythlotter. So let's just poke around a little bit and see what we got. We have a Fellowship versus King Path on Skilled and Weak Sauce. We have Fellowship versus Fellowship, so we have a bit of a mirror match on the site path here, with both Distali and Enolin having a pretty top-heavy deck. Distali's being over 100 cards and Enolin being 80, 60 being the minimum, and many high-level players choosing to stick as close to that minimum as they possibly can. Distali, though, utilizing the Prancing Pony to pull out Aragorn, and then I didn't see how Gandalf came out. Might have just been drawn. So dumping quite a bit of Twilight, but not quite enough to hit that flood insurance threshold. Valerianelia coming out. We had the one burden being added by the Prancing Pony to play Aragorn, and then we probably had a high bid of 3 here. So we have Lieutenant getting played, so sort of a Nazgul Easterling corruption deck, perhaps, we may be seeing here. And then because of all these burdens, Nelia here is going to be Fierce and Damage +1, so that's going to be 4 wounds handed out. Aragorn exerting himself to get himself up in strength. While they're waiting on that, let's go take a look at some of these other ones. So we've got ourselves Stefan versus Zolez. Looks like Zolez here is running that Gondor Wraith deck, and we saw Stefan77's deck last round, so I won't stick too much on there. Basmelis here is running, he's doing a Smeagol Ringbearer with ring-bound characters. Then we have Wingfoot throwing out 3 of those World Championship promo Goblin Runners. Kind of cheeky to be playing those against Basmelis himself, who was the one who, in fact, did win the first World Championship ran by the PC, and who helped design this particular card. So we have ourselves, was that Sam going into the dead pile there? Sam, of course, just there to act as a buffer for the very beginning. Looks like this is going to be largely a Smeagol-based deck. We had a solo Smeagol do pretty well during the EU version of this tournament earlier today. So I think Basmelis may be looking to do the same now. So let's hop on over. We have Balrog with her winning deck last time. Quite a few burdens already on the very first site. She must have bid. What are the bids on this? Balrog only bid 3. And then you have 1 from the Prancing Pony, so there were 2 more that were added by whatever FNL Groove's shadow is here. Doing quite a number on that poor Frodo there. Then we got Mozdref versus Mythlotter. Mozdref here seems to be repeating his usage of the Tentacle deck from when he used it to great effect during the PC Fellowship tournament last month. He's now made a PC movie version of it. And so here we have Galadriel, Bear of Wisdom, who I think is going to be particularly weak to this. Well, Galadriel bears an artifact with a 1 ring. She has resistance +1 for each elven companion you can spot. So that basically puts her at a base 5. She's 6 now with Arwen here, which means it's going to be very important to keep Arwen alive so that Galadriel's resistance does not go down. But that means that right now, Mozdref only needs 4 more burdens to corrupt that Ringbearer. And the PC Fellowship version of this deck is designed to get about 12 burdens out, so Galadriel may be in trouble here. The nice thing about Mozdref's Tentacle deck here is that it has 2 different win conditions, right? It can either go for the corruption or it can go wide for a swarm, depending on which strategy would work a little better. Swept Away coming out. Mozdref had some trouble this morning with Swept Away staying out of his hand until after all of his wraiths had already died. This card, of course, makes it so that all of your, while you have initiative, your exhausted Gondor wraiths cannot take wounds, which means that they can absorb a lot of punishment all day long. Which is going to be particularly important if Myth LOTR here is playing Uruk-hai. So here we have Troop of Uruk-hai coming out, damage +1, and their opponents get no strength from weapons, which is not something that wraiths care about, because they are all enduring. So the more wounds they have, the stronger they are. And if they're prevented from taking wounds, then, well, they're nigh invincible. So on Myth LOTR's side, it looks like we have a bit of a wounding fellowship, probably. Queen of Elves and Men, allowing you to reap the benefits of having a bunch of wounds on the table. You have Lady of Ithilien being able to hand out those wounds. If there's various horses, of course, those will all exert assignment. Assign a minion to Smeagol and add 2 threats to exhaust that minion, so that can get you quite a few wounds on the table to get you the ability to utilize those wounds with Lady of Ithilien. And then you have Aragorn, Elisar Telkontar over here, just with a nice big stat line and the ability to keep healing people. So Monstref putting down the Evil Smelling Fens, of course, one of the no-brainer additions here for the Tentacle deck. That makes each side on the adventure path a marsh, which I think was Decipher's sort of ill-fated attempt to make tentacles matter back in the day, but it did almost nothing because tentacles used to suck quite a bit. We've actually spent a decent amount of effort ourselves trying to get tentacles up and running, and we're happy to see that the archetype is, well, alive and kicking. Alive and slapping? Whatever you do with a tentacle. And no, not that. Okay, well, while they're waiting, let's go hop around and let's go take a look here. So we were at Dystali and Nolan earlier. So we have that Valiant Fellowship looking pretty beat up here. How many people have fallen so far? Theoden Tall and Proud has gone down. Third Marshal Vertimark is out here, but we have a couple of exhausted companions already. Although, well, Frodo's not quite exhausted, but... And that Anquea here, threatening. If you get one more burden, the next time I'm out here, I'm going to eat someone alive. Threshold of Shadow. Make a Nazgul strength +2 or +4 if you can spot 5 burdens. There's not quite 5 burdens, but that fell beast being on Anelia, well, those 2 strength elements alone are enough to get Lathspell off the field. Lathspell is definitely one that we think was overtuned when we first released it, and to be honest, I'm not totally convinced that he's in a good place power-wise now, but at this tournament, people are targeting him hardcore, trying to get him taken out. Over here is Stefan. Looks like he also got his Ritual Oath of Enmity out. Yet again, people just love to flood him. And he demonstrated last game how all those easily controlled sites at the beginning can definitely make Dunland a bit of a monster. Not quite as big a monster as a Balrog, but a monster nonetheless. Over on Basmelis' game, we see Uruk. So he said that he was running Isengard, but here we have a Sauron Uruk-hai. Lurch's Battlecry coming out, making Uruk-hai strength -1 and damage +1. Probably using it just to get out of the hand. Because Sorting with Wizards not caring about how many wounds are going to be going on Bilbo. Tidings of Erebor. Oh, this is Wingfoot. This is the so this is probably the Lost to the Goblins deck that we saw during the EU tournament today. Yeah, so he's going to be using those Tidings of Erebor to draw a bunch of cards. He's going to be using Careful Study to reconcile his hand. He's basically looking to get the perfect hand full of almost nothing but a couple of minions and some Lost of the Goblins, and then all the rest of his cards. You see here you have Gimli, Dwarf of Erebor, and you have 3 for the Elven Kings that allow you to place a card from hand beneath your draw deck. Using those plus Ninya's ability to discard 2 cards from hand to draw the same number of cards. So that's just cycling. So all these cards to cycle through that deck as fast as humanly possible, and then using Gimli and 3 of the Elven Kings to get the shadow cards you want on the bottom of your deck, so that he can hit his opponent with a bomb. Now, a Smeagol deck like this does not necessarily have all the vitality to be able to utilize the same trick that Basmelis used against this exact deck earlier today. What he did was that he used Ettenmoors to exert his Frodo until Frodo was exhausted, and then since Frodo was exhausted, there was no additional vitality for Lost of the Goblins to trigger off of, because it requires the ring bearer to be exerted or wounded. And now you can't really do that so much with a Smeagol deck that is trying to be very lean, and so he might need that vitality for other things. But Basmelis definitely knows it's coming. We'll have to see if he's got the tools to deal with it. Let's hop around here. Let's go take a look at a couple others. Stefan versus Zolez. We have the Witch King, Lord of the Nazgul, Twilight Witch King coming out. He's also got an errata, but his is a bit of a buff. Each time the Witch King wins a skirmish, you may exert him to win the ring bearer twice, of course, but really it's the top bit. Return to his master cannot be played, and skirmishes involving the Witch King cannot be cancelled. That's not so much of a concern here in PC Movie. There are not all that many ways to cancel skirmishes, because it was something that Decipher mostly, but not entirely, started moving away from. It's absolutely nothing like a Fellowship block where you have Hobbit Stealths and Hobbit Intuitions all over the place, constantly canceling skirmishes left and right. There's still the occasional canceller, such as Tom Bombadil and a couple of other standout examples, but so that's definitely a bit of a buff for Fellowship block more than it is PC Movie. Nonetheless, so here we see all these resources being used to get Éomer up to hopefully past that 14. Do you have one more strength? Oh, we do have Aragorn. If well, Éomer's not valiant. Okay, well, I don't know what the point of using that condition was then. Maybe it was just a miscalculation. Thought that it would let him beat the Witch King, but that was not the case here. So we have a fierce Cantea. Cantea, of course, always threatening that if you want to put him up against somebody with a weapon, he may get rid of it. Which means that it's good that there's a couple of companions over here with no weapons. They can take him to the face, because if not, if he were to go up against Éomer, then that spear is going to be getting rid of. And if he were to go up against Éowyn, then that sword of hers is going to be gone as well. So Aragorn's going to take a hit to save his companions. Do not trust to hope. Being abandoned yet again. It's +2 strength and its valiantness being helpful, of course, but perhaps not enough to hold on to it. Alright, let's hop to some other games. I keep hopping to the same too, don't I? Whoa, what's going on over here? Alright, Skilled versus Weak Sauce. We have ourselves an enormous swarm going down up against a Knight deck. We have a bunch of plotting orcs. Looks like it's an Eisen orc swarm, really. So it's looking to do the regroup wounding, but in this case also throwing down a whole bunch of goblin runners to help with the numbers. They're all going to swarm on that Isildur, and we're going to see We'll see what happens here. So Isildur is 7 to 30, and he's got nothing. No options. Buckles under the weight of so many orcs. Excellent win over there. Whew, server's chugging a little bit with all these people playing. So here's Mazdraf again, up against Mythwaters, Isengard, Uruk-hai. We have Lurtz over here with the errated Lurtz sword, which was mostly errated to make it so that this was during the discard deck alterations, but we changed it so that instead of only going on Lurtz, it can go on any unique Uruk-hai. And then each time Bear Words is skirmished, the free people's player must wound a companion or discard the top 3 cards of their draw deck. So a grand total, potentially, of 4 wounds going out from Lurtz with every... Oh, looks like Myth is surprised by the fact that someone died. No, Mazdraf was expecting Swept Away to help him out. He forgot that Swept Away only works while you have initiative, which means that you have to hold on to cards in your hand. But it's definitely one of those caveats. It's one of those things I think that has kept Gondor Wraiths from being a top tier deck, because they are entirely dependent upon that one condition. If that condition isn't there, or if the initiative is not met, then all you have are a bunch of characters that you have purposefully kept exhausted, which is not great. Personally, while running this deck, I've also ran into problems keeping Aragorn alive, because very frequently you can end up in a situation where if somebody does end up dying, then Aragorn is your only non-ring bearer character who can even have threat wounds assigned, because this is Swept Away also does not allow you to put threat wounds on any of your wraiths either, so that could definitely be a problem. It's something that I have a lot of ideas for V3. I have some drafts for some juicy Gondor Wraith stuff that I'm looking forward to. I think that will catapult them to stardom once those are released. Why are the wounds constantly appearing and disappearing? That's odd. Okay, while we wait on that, let's go hop around. So we've got FNL Groove with his dwarf deck going up against, looks like another Balrog deck. Well, yeah, Balrog 69, of course. Throwing around that monstrous Balrog. And here we have the Bridge of Khazad-dûm coming out, getting replaced by Dark Places. And the darkness grew, pulling both of those stored artifacts. So the Balrog is now just about as scary as you can possibly make him. The only thing that could be done more is adding 2 more copies of Dark Places here on the table. 25 strength is the highest that you can get the Balrog. There are no events, I think, that affect him. That's not entirely true. Durin's Tower can also pump him up, I believe. But that's a discard, so the highest you could get there is 27. Not that many of these really care about that. Durin, of course, is sitting here, the monstrous lad that he is, at 16 strength. But with not enough vitality for that to be a really safe option. And are any of these armor? Bracers, maybe. Nope. Okay, Bracer's not armor, according to the type here, so he's safe from that. But that damage +1 coming from the sword, I don't know, it looks like it's going to go on Sindri. Sindri's just going to get sacrificed. Uri's going to lose there to the Goblin Runner. Sindri's going to be sacrificed to the Balrog. It's only right for dwarves to die to the Balrog. And then all those threats coming down. How many were there? 3. And then Durin's going to turn Gollum into a paste. So he's gonna discard a few cards from hand, possibly to get past that. No, not using it for the threshold, just using it to. Oh, interesting. Okay, so the Dwarven Axe errata, making a minion strength -1 until the regroup phase. Will that make a difference? No, it won't. And Balrog decides to discard the bottom cards of their deck anyway, interestingly enough. They end up losing 2 copies of Shadowplay and an Old Villain. That actually may have been in their favor. And then sacrificing Uri. Oops. Makes a dwarf who's damage plus X, strength plus X, and poor little Uri there was damage plus nothing. So he got nothing. Good day, sir. So flipping back over to... Okay, we need to stop watching Valor so much. We watched her for a whole lot that first round, and now let's give some other people... Oh, what was that? Okay, so what did I just miss? What on earth did I miss? Oh, Saruman's power. Right, okay. That, of course, being one of the things that really puts Isengard apart. The fact that all of those things, Saga of Elendil, You Have My Sword, Swept Away, I Would Have Gone With You to the End, all of them deleted off of the table. And then Saruman, Keeper of Isengard, being able to exert himself to make another Uruk High Fierce. And so we have Uruk Warrior here. Being fierce, although it looks like that's not actually going to be much to his benefit, considering that he's actually weaker than the Oathbreaker there. Savagery to match their numbers. Okay. So we have a bit of an event war going back and forth. There's one Swept Away still on the table because it discarded cards from hand to save it, but Mosdref only barely has initiative. But it looks like the Wraiths will prevail. So it looks like the Distali versus Inolan game has ended with Distali dying to Nazgul horribly, it looks like. Stefan versus Zolez. We still have these Nazgul chipping away at those Valiant Companions. This game is going very slowly. They're only on site 4. They got 9 minutes left apiece on their chess clocks. Basmelis versus Wingfoot. Looks like Wingfoot has finally ended Basmelis' undefeated status for I don't know how many games in a row. Now, granted, it was with a bit of a handicap. Basmelis let someone else pick what his deck was going to be. But it finally happened. There's a feather you can put in your cap, Wingfoot. And then Balrog versus FNL Groove. FNL Groove is pulling out a bunch of Beasterlings, it looks like. So we have Easterling Captain here that is going to be turning... Oh, okay, but we had And the Red Dawn being used from V2. It's about 3 Valiant Companions to discard your entire hand. For each Shadow card discarded, exert a minion. For each Free People's card discarded, heal a Valiant or Rohan Companion. And then you cannot make any more maneuver actions. And then Eowyn, of course, loves to see a lot of wounded minions like that. Someone made a good suggestion, I think, for errata on this, and I think we're going to make it so that it self-discards when you do that. Wouldn't have changed how it operated in that situation, but then it wouldn't still be on the table to use later if needed. These dwarves packing on all the possessions, of course, and we know the Balrog's deck has a Worm Tongue or 2 lurking. It will only be able to target Durin here, though, because Gimli is ring-bound, and Worm Tongue only targets unbound companions. Let's hop over to Mosdref and Mythlotr. We have those elves still trekking. Still only 2 burdens on Galadriel. Oh, there's an Elf Song being played. I imagine that may be part of why. Yeah, look at that. There's 4 copies of Elf Song that have been used. So it's not that Monster F has not been adding burdens, but that they have been getting stripped back off. And now that there is another elf on the field, and we have that file of Galadriel going on Galadriel herself, we got a lot more resistance to be playing with. And Monster F's deck not looking very good. We've only got 4 cards left in the deck. This is going to get to the point where it's running out of gas. We have 1 stacked tentacle here. Which one is it? A vile tentacle. Looks like that might be... Well, it's being held in reserve, perhaps. I mean, there's 3 evil smelling fens here on the table, all of which are already providing marsh. Nine Twilight left. 5 cards in hand. Monster F may be trying to decide what the best way forward is. Was probably looking at the discard pile. So he plays a Foul Things. What's he going to pull out? Whoops, that's not the right discard pile. Pulls out another Thrashing Tentacle. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got it by one purpose, adding another burden. This may be the last hurrah, but I guess we'll see. Really depends on how this works out. Lady of Athelion is less useful than you might think, considering that if she were to use her ability to wound a bunch of tentacles, then... Okay, so here's a situation where Greenleaf is going to come in. Monster F, I think, is going to deny that. Yeah, there we go. And then it's going to immediately get stacked back on Out of Dark Waters. Legolas now helpfully putting himself within death range himself. But now with only 5 tentacles on the field, there's less of a threat to Galadriel herself. Another arrow from Greenleaf being put on the Ryther. The Ryther going back on the Dark Waters as well. Now Ryther has the ability, when you play him from a stacked card, such as Dark Waters, then you can use him to play 2 more tentacles, or no, to stack 2 more tentacles from your discard pile on that card. So that's good. That's going to give him a little bit more gas to keep going. And many of these are going to lose their skirmishes, and so in that case, yep, that Foul Tentacle is going to get stacked. Looks like he's spreading them around to make sure that they're on different copies. Thrashing Tentacle specifically being put on Galadriel so that Thrasher does not lose. And then I believe that was Eowyn overwhelming a tentacle, and since it was an overwhelm with no wounds, the Dark Waters was not able to react properly. So yeah, most of the field getting stacked back up on these Dark Waters and denying the last tentacle by taking a wound instead on the Ringbearer. There he goes. Monster F's entire deck is now in hand. Let's see, what's that Site 9? Each shadow player may draw a card for each companion over 4. Well, there was already nothing in the deck. Let's see, is this enough Twilight to make a difference? Greenleaf is exhausted. Okay, 2 more Thrashers are placed on that... I wonder, was there another Ryther in the discard pile? There weren't. Is there only 1 Ryther in the deck? A second Ryther would have allowed him to juggle nearly the entire discard pile's worth with the tentacles out. Foul Things coming out. Probably want to go for another tentacle because 1 more burden is not going to make a difference here. Yeah, here comes another tentacle. 2 more. That's enough to play the last tentacle that is on that on that Dark Waters. And now here is a proper swarm. Burdens didn't work out. Okay, what just got discarded there? That was Ninya. Alright, so Greenleaf being used to snipe the Wounded Thrashing Tentacle. I think that's the Javelin. Yeah, Javelin going out. There are a few... There's a little bit of vitality here on the table, but not much. So the archery fire is assigned. It's going to come down to the wire here. Arwen and Eowyn are going to eat all of their opponents alive. Although I don't know if they'd want to eat in this case, literally. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4 of these tentacles that are going to be assigned. There's 3 left that are going to end up on Galadriel. I think the lowest possible strength that represents is 10 plus 6, 16. 16 strength, quadrupling Galadriel's strength. Does Myth-Lotter have a way out of this swarm? Oh, it doesn't even put the bare minimum. Just, okay, so we're going to have 18 strength instead of 16. Oh, wait, no, I see why they're doing that. Okay, so Legolas is going to win his skirmish, and then Poe of the Galadrim is going to wound a minion. So he's going to use that to kill the Thrashing Tentacle that is assigned to Galadriel here. That's going to get him down to 12 strength against 4. So now it's merely tripled instead of quadrupled. There are no threats on the table. Interesting. Okay. So rather than pile everything on Galadriel, he goes to make sure that Legolas cannot win his skirmish. None of these other skirmishes matter now. Legolas could have potentially provided some aid there to Galadriel. But I don't think that Arwen winning really matters. With the number of wounded minions around, she's stomping that tentacle into dust. Losing a... Okay, so that was a Thrasher that did lose a skirmish, so that's a burden that gets added. Not that it's going to matter too much here. Eowyn winning her skirmish handily. Legolas is going to lose his skirmish. 10 to 7, and now her resistance is down to 5. 12 to 4. Need to get up 3 strength. Oh, Elven Sword. Did not even notice that. Exert bearer or discard 2 cards from hand to make a minion skirmishing bearer strength -1. They no longer have any more cards. Oh, that was enough. That was just barely enough to get down below that overwhelm threshold. Very close. Very, very close. There's 2 more fierce minions, but it doesn't really matter. They're both going to get stomped flat by these fierce ladies here. And then that is going to be it. So Myth-Lotter is going to squeak by with 2 resistance remaining on her Galadriel. Yeah, that's cutting it a bit close, actually, letting both of those Thrashers. Yeah, I feel like you could have miscalculated that very easily. I don't know that I would have risked that right at the very end, but what a flex, right? Okay, looks like we still have one game still running. We have Balrog versus FNL Groove. They're on site 9. Looks like Frodo must have died at one point and Sam took over the ring. We have ourselves an Easterling captain with the Easterling regiment. Both of them holding pole arms and a raider bow there on the Easterling captain. I'm not sure if this is the first or the second skirmish. If this is the second skirmish, then it looks like it's in the bag for Balrog. But if it's the first... it's fine if it's the first two, because both Eowyn and Gandalf can easily lose their skirmishes with enough vitality remaining to not get completely dusted. And then... yeah. And then just do it again for the fierce skirmish, and if they die, they die. So that was the first skirmish. So yeah, exactly as I pointed out. So they had plenty of vitality. It looks like there's nothing that FNL Groove has. There's no gas left in the hand or in the deck. The only thing that's there is the amount of Twilight. Nah, well, there's no threats. It could have conceivably mattered if there were threats, because you could kill one of these guys, and then if there were a million billion threats, then it could make a difference. But there's only 4, so even 4 threats, all 4 would have gone on Aragorn, and then you're fine. Like there's really nothing left. This is all formalities at this point. Okay, so while we're waiting on that event to finish, let's go ahead and take a look at our standings. So Enolan and Wingfoot are our undefeated players so far, with Wingfoot having taken a bite out of Basmelis. So Distali, Basmelis, Skilled. Who do we have in the last one? We have Balrog and FNL Groove. So that one's actually not finished yet. But Stefan 77, Myth, and Myth. Going 1-1, and then Mazdref, Weak Sauce, and Zolez having lost both of their matches. I don't know why there's a back and forth going here. This skirmish really doesn't matter. Even if both of these guys die, there's absolutely nothing that that FNL Groove here can do to get to Sam. Unless one of these is like a... I mean, okay, style points, I guess. You're overwhelming Gandalf. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I'm a fool. Each time a companion is killed, add a burden. There was only 1 resistance left. Oh, man. I had completely missed that particular detail. Okay, so actually letting anybody die was enough. Oh, wow. I guess I'm going to eat my words. I thought that was... that there was nothing left of that. Why are they even still struggling? They're struggling over that. Yes, each time a companion is killed, add a burden. Okay, well. So much for me knowing what's going on in these games, right? Okay, so now let's take a look at the actual standings now that the last game is finished. So that's FNL Groove that moves on to join the undefeated camp, and then we have this big mess of people here in the middle, and then we have the 3 people down at the bottom that have gone 0-2. So that next round will be beginning here in another moment. With this many people, with 12 people, we should have 4 rounds. Let me just go remind people of that, because that's something that often gets forgotten. Okay, now we're right off to the races. Let's open these all up again. So this time it's Balrog 69 versus Weak Sauce and Stefan 77 versus Basmelis. I bet Stefan is really surprised to see that. Distali versus Skilled and Enolan versus FNL Groove. Mythlaughter versus Wingfoot and Zolez versus Mazdrev. So who are we going to follow this time? We have jumped back and forth a little bit. So Distali's deck, 105 cards. Played quite a bit, but not overwhelmingly so. Prancing Pony Spare Room being one of the V1 cards. Each time a minion of Strength 6 or less is played, make it Strength +3 until the regroup phase, unless you can spot a Gandalf card, which we can, in fact. More's the pity. But Mr. Barliman Butterbur here actually doing what the card is implying, then with the help of those Gandalf allies, fending off anyone that's helping out. So it looks like Skilled here is running that Eisen Orc wounding deck. So here they don't care quite so much about winning skirmishes. They just want to survive skirmishes with any or all of their vitality intact. And then during the regroup phase, they will exert to make their opponent wound. So here's Aragorn using his ability to get to that overwhelm threshold so that there is absolutely no vitality left. We have the mount that is over here on Gandalf doing something similar. Aragorn once again exerting to get Gandalf to the stage where this servant is now going to walk out of here without any spare vitality. And I think this is going to be the only orc that has anything left. Okay, so that Isengard Servant's going to exert twice, so that's 2 more wounds that's going to be going down. That's not bad for Sight 2. Not bad at all. One of the things you always have to be cognizant of as a Shadow player, if you are particularly trying to go for a Shadow win, is that when there's 5 wounds that are going to be healed at the Sanctuary, anything that you do before now, if you want it to stick, has to be more than 5 wounds. And so right now, we're going to see, yep, there's 6 wounds across the table. Now, Merry is going to be able to discard himself, so the wounds on him kind of don't count. But still, that's a very good starting point. It definitely makes Distali think twice about moving again, because with this many characters on the field, it would only take a couple more to really start doing some permanent damage. And this being one of the strategies that Gandalf Latspell is not very useful against. You may spot 3 Valiant Companions and exert Gandalf to prevent that action. Well, exerting Gandalf will put a wound on Gandalf, which is exactly what these orcs are trying to do. So this is one situation where his ability does not come in handy at all. Decides to go for that double. Early moves are very important, but it is risky. It's taking that gamble on whether or not any of those 3 cards that Skilled drew are going to help. Here comes a Grima. Probably not what they wanted. Even just a 2 Twilight Eisenorc would have been more helpful here, I think. None of these are necessarily a dire threat to Frodo. He can take on one of them with his 3 strength and with the additional +2 strength that could come from his ring in a pinch. Gandalf and Aragorn taking care of their orcs handily. Merry taking another wound, which once again doesn't really matter all that much if he can self-discard or bounce himself back to hand. Theoden taking the only real... Oh, there we go. So Merry returns himself to hand just to get rid of all those wounds. Aragorn exerts to ensure that Theoden doesn't die, which is fine, you know, from the Shadow player's perspective, because all they wanted was the wound anyway. I mean, killing Theoden would have been nice, sure, but... So now we're sitting here at 6 wounds. So those Let Us Be Swifts being played just to get them out of their hand, because there's no... they're not going to be useful here. There's no sites to liberate, and there's probably not going to be too many conditions. There are some. V2 has added some Eisenort conditions that'll be super useful. But, yeah. Okay, so now we're up against Skilled with his Dwarf and Shire Fellowship. So we have the Starglass coming out on Frodo, which will help them deal with any major problematic
problematic minions, and then we have there and back again, while Distali gets set up with what looks to be more of a standard Moria Swarm setup as opposed to the Balrog beatdown. Guard Commander coming out. He's definitely more of a beatdown orc than a swarm orc, but so maybe it is the Balrog beatdown. I know that Distali is a fan of that. Gimli is going to be taking his lumps from the Guard Commander here. It's not too bad, though. It'll just be one more wound in a situation where they're sitting on the Sanctuary. So it's going to get completely wiped away. No progress made whatsoever. Now probably all the wounds are going to get wiped off of Aragorn and Theoden, leaving the lone wound there on Frodo. Arrow slits coming out, which can be used to get rid of possession if necessary. I don't know if there's any possessions that might be used much by Eisenorcs. There are a couple weapons that could come out. And now for Wrath coming down, which can be used to turn exertions into wounds, which that very well could be useful here. Has to be an exertion from a Free People's card, though. Radagast coming out. This is pretty early for Radagast, but it doesn't look like Skilled had anything to play, so maybe it was the right play. Oh, Elbereth going on Frodo here on Skilled side, and then what was that that was just played? Search far and wide, spot a dwarf and discard the top card of your draw deck to draw 2 cards. Okay. Then we have Dwarven Armor going on Gimli so that he cannot be overwhelmed unless he's tripled. Goblin Patrol Troop coming out. Using that PC errata, exert this minion or a unique Moria Orc to draw a card. Didn't find anything worth playing. Oh no, there's zero Twilight. Nothing left to play. Hobbit Intuition being used to cancel that skirmish, even though it would have been well enough to take out either one of those hobbits. There and back again could be used to boost them both up in a pinch, but don't want to use that too early. So we have Sam, Resolute Halfling coming out. We have And the Red Dawn being used to, it'll be used to discard the hand and get some exertions that could be used by now for Wrath. We have the V2 Old Man's Crutch, because when Last Spell first came out, his text was too much, so we split him up into 2 cards, one on his staff, one on himself. So now if you, each time Gandalf is exerted by a Free People's card, you may wound a minion, limit once per phase. So dovetails nicely, of course, with his own text, naturally, since originally he was both halves on the same card. But by splitting it up like this, now it precludes the ability to use the regular Gandalf staff. So now you gotta pick. Distali really flaunting the 6 companion limit here, though. With those 7 companions there on the table, and Radagast. I think he's getting ready for a sprint here. Could double move to the Sanctuary, and then, if things are looking good, maybe move right past it. Eisenorks might be able to take advantage of that, but we shall see. So, Isengard Warrior, exert this minion, spot 3 wounds on the Ring Bearer to exert every companion. Saruman Snow's coming out. No player may play skirmish events or use skirmish special abilities during skirmishes involving an Isengard minion at this site. So that means no more Aragorn's ability. And there's more than 6 companions, so Nquea here is going to pick someone to eat. Oh, but not before And the Red Dawn is used, discarding Distali's hand. Interestingly, paring down all the Eisenorks. So that does make it so that Nquea is no longer able to kill anyone. Previously, he could have gotten Theoden or Merry. But here... Interesting. Okay, so rather than hitting Nquea, Gandalf exerts to prevent Nquea's ability, and then uses the staff to knock Plotter on the head. With no vitality on any of these orcs, if the Plotter survives, then that's 3 wounds, or 4 wounds actually, that can be had by discarding each one of these orcs. Six minions on the table with 7 companions does make things a little bit tricky. Gotta make sure that you don't accidentally let anybody die. Oh, okay, so the Horse of Rohan being used to exert that Isengard warrior. Now that there's going to be 3 wounds there on the Ring Bearer, that warrior would have been something. I think that this all but eliminates the ability, though, for Distali to double move to that Site 6. Skilled is going to be drawing 7 cards. It would be downright irresponsible. Oh, interesting. Okay. Sacrifices Frodo and passes the ring over to Sam rather than holding on to him. They're still at 6 companions, so there's still risks there. But with the Ring Bearer having this ability, if you have initiative, discard a card from hand to heal Sam. That's definitely a useful combo there. It's something that we have seen quite a bit actually in the past few months. I think it's the holiday promo here that threw me off. I was not primed to think about that particular combo. Looks different from the Resolute Halfling I'm used to seeing. So a couple promises coming out. Eclipse of Emyn Muil. Discard this condition to wound a minion, a Hobbit companion in skirmishing. And here comes the Balrog. Balrog Bonanza. This may be a problem. I don't know. So there and back again is going to get you up to 10 strength. So Frodo can fight the Balrog twice, I suppose. You could use the One Ring's ability. Did not use the One Ring's ability.
Okay, so Starglass being used here to nullify all of Balrog's text, which means that he's no longer damage +1, no longer fierce. That may come back to bite him later, though, because there was a very clear option there to use the One Ring and turn the 4 wounds that the Balrog would have given, turn that into 4 burdens instead, and then use the Star Glass on a future site when the Balrog shows up again, because that won't be the last that we'll see of him. Well, so much for getting close to that 5 companion setup with third Marshal coming out. Lots and lots of fighting. Lots of skirmish heavy companions here. Radagast giving his opponent the ability to do a bit of a reconciliation. 2 Hobbit Intuitions getting discarded. Library of Orthanc coming down. You can play an Isengard minion to stack the top card of your draw deck on that card. So there goes Gimli's Helm, which would have been super useful on Gimli, but what can you do? And then you can use this to make Isengard minions strength +1. Oh, we're already in the maneuver phase. I guess Skill didn't want to play any of the other stuff. Okay, sorry. Zoned out for a bit there. Been doing a lot of streaming today. Let's take a travel about and let's take a look at some of these other setups. So we have Balrog with her Balrog setup going up against Weak Sauce with Knights. We've also got Stefan77 against Bismelis, and Bismelis is in fact playing those Isengard minions. We didn't get to see a whole lot of this. We got to see the after effects of one of them. Looks like there are some berserkers in here, but not with any machines on the table, so I think it's just purely there for the big stat total and the damage +1. Well, plus the strength bonus from his own ability. And that's the game we were just looking at with Destalian Skilled. Over here we have Enolin versus FNL Groove. Looks like we have a very stacked Twilight Witch King with both a Fell Beast and a Black Flail. That Black Flail being able to get rid of just about any dwarven possession that might get in his way, and then Fell Beast allowing him to be fierce, meaning that his ability, each time the Witch King wins a skirmish, he may exert him to wound the ring bearer twice. So at 19 strength, it's not impossible for him to win both skirmishes, exert twice, and wound the ring bearer 4 times on top of the 2 wounds that he's going to get from victory. Yeah, this is a very, very scary Witch King here. So the Ring of Accretion being used. For each dwarf you spot, reveal a card from the top of your draw deck. Take all 3 people's cards revealed in the hand and discard the rest. Discard this artifact. Looking, I think, for some skirmish events, because if he doesn't have any skirmish events, there's going to be some dead dwarves here. So there's a dead Uri. We have 2 threats going down, and then Witch King's going to exert and get a couple of wounds more on Gimli. And then repeat. Either he's going to take out Lennar, or he's going to go after Durin the Third and then rip away some of those possessions with that Black Flail. But no, another overwhelmed dwarf. Discard a dwarven card from hand to make a dwarf damage +1. Okay. He might have that one. Let's see. So he needs to get to. Nah, no, just using the card to get it out of hand. We now have ourselves an exhausted Gimli, a Durin who's not looking to great himself. On site 5. FNL Groove has 2. Those are the only 2 dwarves that have died so far, so he's got plenty of slots. Potentially he could refill the ranks. So now we switch over to Nolan, who is running that Elven plus Estelle, the last alliance of Elves and Estelle deck. You have Círdan going down, or Círdan getting healed, you have Glorfindel going down, and then they go to that, okay, yeah, the Dwarven version of the Minas Tirith Circle. And FNL Groove throws down some Beasterlings. We have our Easterling army, we have our Easterling captain. So of course got that Tengwar version. One of these days I'd like to get back to that Tengwar project and get the card generator able to support Tengwar, because I think it can be done, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. In particular, we would need to make our own font, because none of the other Tengwar fonts that are out there, I think, are fantastic for this purpose. Plus, Daniel Reeves' work that he did on the Tengwar here is very different from most of the other Tengwar ones out here. Like this particular character here, that T-looking thing. Most of the other ones that do it make it enormous, kind of like this one looks very large, and it kind of breaks up the text and makes it hard to take seriously. I don't know. This doesn't look very good. Taking his time on that assignment. Of course, I have that Raider Bow on Captain, so he's going to be able to boost himself up to ungodly amounts, but he is up against Círdan, the absolute goat of skirmish winning, so we shall see who shall win here. So Círdan relies on there being a lot of elven events in your discard pile, and it looks like there's quite a few in here. We have given him an errata so that if the minion that he fights is overwhelmed, then you have to remove half of the elven events in your discard pile from the game. But it looks like he just takes his lumps. Oh, here we go. Let's see. So we have that. No, not that. Vision from afar. Assign an Easterling to the ring bearer. The previous player may add a burden to prevent this. Obviously, adding a burden because Galadriel's not going to be able to survive against the Easterling army. And so now we get to the point, I think, where the twilight that's going to come from that Raider Bow when Easterling Captain is assigned is going to be utilized. Plus we have those exertions on that Easterling army. I think that almost anyone that goes against this is going to get overwhelmed. So we have 4 burdens there on the ring bearer, so we can get a total of 4 strength out of Easterling army. And there will be 9 twilight, so 8 twilight is usable, meaning that we can get a grand total of 12 strength out of the captain. So I think, considering the Glorfindel is strength 9 here, it might make sense to push this army up to the overwhelm threshold for Aragorn. Yeah, here we go. How many more Elven events do you have, bro? Do it. Do it, do it, do it. Let's see some carnage. And if he does it again, nope. Okay, well, never mind. I was going to say that the math is not on his side this time, because it won't take nearly as many resources for the Easterlings to pump up. That first one was an odd number, but the second one would have landed on an even number, so it would have worked out better for him. But oh well. Estella's dead. Glorfindel has now died. Enolan's Free People's side. Oh yeah, with Queen of Elves and Men also in the dead pile. I think that things are starting to crumble for them just a little bit. They have made it to the sanctuary, so all these wounds that are here right now are going to get peeled away, but it's not looking good. Well, while they're taking their time, let's go take a look on some of these other tables. Looks like that game finished, whoever it was. This game is finished. Oh yeah, we watched that one to the end, didn't we? Didn't we? No, never mind. Maybe not. So over here, back on Distali versus Skilled. Looks like Skilled has managed to get out quite a few Eisen Orcs way out on Site 8. We have that warrior out again. And there are not quite 3 wounds on the ring bearer. Not yet, anyway. But Theoden Tall and Proud replaces himself with Eowyn, Lady of Ithilien. And it looks like that Library of Orthanc down there has gotten quite stacked. The all of those Free People's cards, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, can be used for 4 floating strength on orcs. And then you can also spend Twilight to take all of those orcs into hand. So is he going to burn those? This is an exhausted Last Hope of Men. So if all 4 of these get used, then this Journeyman will be strength 9. Oh, you don't need to go all the way, actually. You just need to get to strength 8. That's good enough because Shadow's going to win the tie. And you have +1 floating strength for elsewhere. And there goes Aragorn. Third Marshal of Lenmark, of course, is going to win his skirmish handily. Radagast is also going to knock that orc on the head. And then Sam is going to lose his skirmish unless he adds a burden. Okay. So that Goblin Runner gets knocked down. But what's important is how much vitality we have over here. So we have the Journeyman that's going to be able to exert twice, making the Free People's player wound 2 people. So Eowyn's going to take a hit. Oh wait, no, it's discard an orc. I thought it was exert. And he's going to discard himself for 1 last wound, which he's going to go ahead and put on Sam. Which means that if another Isengard warrior comes out, that will be, well, I mean, it's not like there's any spare vitality anyway. So exerting everybody is not exactly that useful. Now this fellowship here seems to have managed to stay resilient in the face of what is normally, I believe, a bit of a beatdown deck. Yeah, so we have the Balrog in the discard pile, we have Cave Troll of Moria, we have a couple of Enqueas. It's been a lot of very strong guys. Here comes Host.
flanked by a couple of goblin runners. "15 strength isn't as much as it would have been earlier in this game. Frodo can take a hit. Gimli could take a hit, but it's probably not good to do so. Oh, well. Shows what I know. Frodo and Sam going to take out the 2 weenie orcs, and Gimli's just going to take a hit. With that Host of Moria going back onto the goblin swarms, so now he's going to be available anytime. Now, Skilled is probably not going to move again. He's only got 5 cards in hand, 1 card in deck. He's probably looking to go for a shadow kill here with this very wounded, very weakened fellowship. Oh, we do have another and the Red Dawn coming out. We have Firefoot. So our Eomer is Defender +1. Oh, and the Waste of Emyn Mule. Exert your Isengard Orc to make the Free People's player wound a companion or 2 companions if you spot 6. And you can in fact spot 6, but there's also Enquea here. Alright, so, and the Red Dawn being used to heal up Gandalf to give him a little bit of vitality. Looks like all the cards that he was holding in his hand were Free People's cards, so there's going to be no exertions here. Gandalf is going to have enough vitality to save his people from Enquea, but that's going to be a lot more difficult to keep them alive from the onslaught that is going to be this site. Interestingly, oh no, that's a regroup action. Never mind. I thought that was a shadow action for some reason. To take one of those out, but that's tricky. Okay, so Gandalf says no to the Enquea. He can do it one more time. Gandalf could exert once more. But Gandalf is going to deny him again. But at the same time, the Eisenorc strategy just wants you to lose vitality. Where exactly that vitality is isn't all that important, so long as it is all depleted. However, that 4 vitality Mary is going to be a problem. So let's see, we have a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 possible exertions. So that's 9 vitality at minimum. But so long as there are 6 companions, it'll be 2 per exertion. So it's actually in Dastali's interest to kill somebody off immediately. Fortunately, Radagast is sitting there as a nice sacrificial cow. Oh, okay, but this is a good opening number, having forcing. Oh, well, yes, forcing Skilled to now apply 3 wounds across all of these, and she's going to do it again. Wait, no, that was the last one. So, okay, so just 3, but still, so that's taking those 9 total exertions and reducing it to 6, potentially reducing it to 7 if Enquea is sacrificed here. I'm not sure if that's a good call or not. Because if all the Eisenorcs are able to kill everything with the Sight's ability, then you want to have that Enquea around so that the fierce Nazgul can take care of Sam. Although Sam is looking pretty equipped over here. He's got total of 5 strength. He's got 2 more strength that he can pull out of the ring, so he can't get overwhelmed. And he could just turn something into a burden. So actually, I think the call might be to wound Enquea once, and then wound... Let's see... Yeah, so there goes Enquea. And then he's going to put both wounds on the plotter there. Yeah, okay. All right, so now we have ourselves a situation. So are you going to go ahead and start using the site? You want to use it now while there's 6 companions. Okay. So he's exerting the one that's up against Sam. There go. Okay, yeah. So for the very first wound, Distali gets rid of Radagast, so that now we are below that 6 companion limit. So now there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more exertions remaining. So that's 5 wounds that can be applied. And there's more than 5 spare vitality. So there's 1 on Mary. Instead of... Oh no, there's a horse there. Okay, never mind. So long as the next skirmish was a horse, that's really what you wanted to do, to make sure that the horse did not eat up any of that vitality. Or rather, from the free people's perspective, to use up as much vitality as possible. Now we have our plotter over here that is going to be able to, and we have a tinker with spare vitality. Okay, but Sam's already put the ring on, so now actually his 3 remaining vitality is not accessible. So may as well use the site one more time on this worker because he's going to die to last spell anyway. Or no, hang on. It may make sense to keep him alive because the plotter's going to discard him to... Well, a wound is a wound either way, right? Doesn't matter if it's now or later. Now Sam only has 5 resistance, I mean. So he's taken 3 wounds now. He can only take 2 more. I think the ring may have been put on a little bit early. Because that's 3 vitality now that he's locked himself out of. This is going to be close. Oh, no, it's not. Okay, so Plotter's going to discard the Tinker, and then Plotter's going to discard himself, and so that's going to be 1 wound here, and then 1 wound killing someone else. Or going on as a burden for Sam. Yes, 1 goes on last spell. Oh, and then since he gets exerted, he takes the other guy out. Okay, alright, well. Managed to thread that needle. Get through all of those all of those wounds. Well played by both players. So where are we at over here? We are looking at Enolin versus FNL Groove. These other games have all finished, so there are the last one left. Now there's less than 2 minutes on each player's clock here. The Balrog's still tracking down dwarves, it looks like. That seems to have been a theme recently. So now we have Durin versus the Balrog. Oh, that was the last round, okay. Do you double move with the Balrog on the table? Probably not, but on the other hand, I mean, it really comes down to what you have in your hand, right? Do you have a better Shadow hand or do you have a better Free People's hand? Okay, so Shadow hand coming out, or it's going to be a Shadow fight here. All right. Gilgalad coming out, but we also have the Slag Mounds that made such a big difference on one of the other games. Each time a companion is killed, add a burden. We have Small Hope coming out to boost Easterlings. We have a Footman. We have a Regiment with a polearm going on the Regiment, and so the Regiment is going to be damage +1 because there's more than 5 burdens, or exactly 5 burdens rather.
Okay. So if this regiment manages to kill somebody, that might make a difference. But no, it doesn't look like there's anything. FNL Groove throws GG in the chat. Can't get through that absolute meat wall that is... Ah, no, he killed him. It's real close. Super close. But not quite enough. Okay, let's go take a look at the standings here. So we are now currently standing just after round 3. Inolan and Wingfoot are the last two undefeated individuals, both having gone 3-0. FNL Groove, Distali, Balrog, and Stefan have gone 2-1. And Mythlotter, Basmelis, Skilled, Mozdrev have each gone 2-1. And then Wixos and Zolez are bringing up the rear. So we have one more round left in us. So that'll be starting here in just a moment. All right, final match. We do have a couple people that have dropped, it looks like. It has been a bit long. Bit of a long day. So Balbrog 69 versus Mythlotter, Distali versus FNL Groove, Skilled versus Stefan 77, and Olin versus Wingfoot 81, and Weaksauce versus Mozdrev. So let's... What was on the standings again? Who are the undefeated ones? Whoops. All right. Enolan and Wingfoot. So let's go watch. Let's go pay close attention to this one, shall we? Because the winner of this one is going to get all the marbles. So the way that it's going to work in this particular system is everybody who has participated here today is going to earn 1 point on their circuit score. The winner of the match, in particular the winner of this match, the person who's going to come in first with the best score, is going to earn an additional point. And then, if there are at least 8 players, which there are, the people in the top 4 will all get an additional point as well. So the loser of this match will get 2, and the winner of this match will get 3, and then the other 2 in the top 4 will also get 2 points. So Wingfoot starting off with, in fact, we've seen this guy's deck before. He played during the EU version of this tournament earlier today, and we have watched him a little bit throughout this particular version of the tournament. So we have that Galadriel Lady Redeemed, who is at some point going to get Nenya and use 3 rings of the Elven Kings. And then Gimli, using his ability, is going to stick cards from hand onto the bottom of the deck. Both of these are going to be used. Yep, there's that 3 rings. He has done very well at managing to draw that almost in his first hand every single round. He must have 3 or 4 copies of it. But so with this, he's going to be able to put stuff on the bottom of his deck every time he moves. Gimli will be able to do the same at the beginning of each fellowship phase, and so it is going to set up a Lost to the Goblins bomb, and we shall see if it goes off this time. It has gone off and taken a few people with it. We'll see if Enolan is able to hold it off. Galadriel is not the best when it comes to resistance, but she's not terrible either, so long as she manages to keep some of her elven companions around. Consorting with Wizards being used, not for the wound prevention here, but exerting Bilbo 4 times to remove 4 Twilight to try and keep his fellowship safe here. So when they move to the next site, that's going to be 5 Twilight here, and then maybe 2 Twilight from there. So that's going to be 7 plus the 1 here. So that'll be about 8 Twilight that we're going to see. I guess he decided that 3 Twilight, so should be 9 Twilight total. Adds the 2 burdens, does he? No? Yeah, adds the 2 burdens just to keep that Twilight out. So we should see 9 Twilight here. And the exertions managed to keep there from being 16, which I guess, or I'm sorry, not 16, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 9, 10, 11, 12, I'm not sure that the difference between 9 and 13 would have been all that much, worth 4 vitality. I don't know. I mean, consorting makes sure that he can't actually take any wounds, but then his strength is not very high. There's not very many people that he can hold off. And now that Nelia is just drooling, looking at all those burdens and wounds on there to make sure that Nelia is going to be fierce and damage +1. We have Fell Voice's Call being used to play an item from the draw deck or discard pile, and so that is a Nazgul sword coming out. So with 3 burdens, this Nazgul is now damage +1 on top of the damage +1 he already has. So this Nelia is going to be handing out 6 wounds today. Well, unless there's something else. I mean, there is Pippin that can... Oh, okay, Mary's going to keep him up. And actually, come to think of it, yeah, that consorting is not going to matter. Or the consorting is going to make sure that all that damage doesn't matter. Oh, but here we go. A surprise event coming in. Are there any other surprises? Well, he's fierce, so now he's got to deal with it again. Pippin can't save him without Mary. Yep, and so there we go. So that's going to be a dead Mary. So not quite as many wounds, I think, as could have been done. But still, that's not a bad start for a Twilight Nazgul setup. I think that many of exertions may have been a mistake, although at the time Wingfoot did not know that his opponent was Twilight Nazgul. But those exertions may come back to bite him. He's only on Site 2. He absolutely cannot run to Site 3 right now, because with the 4 Twilight that's currently there, there would be a total of 8-ish, 8 or 9 Twilight, depending on the site. And then that would be a whole other Nazgul. And I think that Wingfoot would start to crumble under that pressure. While these guys are pausing and thinking about whether or not to move, let's just do a brief round on all these other tables. So Balrog versus Mythlotter. Mythlotter bringing out those Isengard cards. We have Crows of Isengard coming out, one of the V1 Crows. You can spot 2 Free People's items, or spot Saruman to take a Isengard item into hand from your draw deck or discard pile. And over here we can see Distali once again stacking up so many companions right there at the very beginning up against FNL Groove and his dwarf deck. And Distali is running Moria, and he does have a couple Balrogs, but it's not going to be quite as consistent playing just the Balrog like some of these other Moria decks have been. This is playing a little bit more of a traditional Moria setup. Yeah, with scimitars and armories and all that. Over here we have Skilled and his Eisen Orcs going up against Stefan77, who does not seem... I think Stefan might be dying right here. He'll survive the skirmishes, of course. But that's going to be 1, 2, 3... Oh, wait, no. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 potential wounds getting laid down. Potentially even more if his opponent is forced to wound Frodo there. Yeah, that could be a very quick end. And then over here we have Monster F and his Burden Tentacles up against Wigsauce and his Knights. Let's go ahead and hop back over to Wingfoot and Inolan to see how this goes. All right, so we have Wingfoot throwing down a lot of goblins.
This is, of course, a Lost to the Goblins deck, but that means that you need a lot of goblins for someone to be lost to. So when the draws line up, why not throw a bunch of orcs out? Now, most of these characters, of course, are not going to break a sweat against some of these orcs, but Galadriel is only strength 3. Should be able to get up to 5 with the ring, which probably isn't necessary here. There are Moria events, but people hardly ever run them. Typically only in a situation where you want to have a backup for Tale of the Great Ring. But besides that, we should see all the rest of these orcs fall one by one. None of them putting up hardly any challenge. Except for the one that manages to nick Galadriel. All of that, unfortunately, means that it's going to be a very easy move for Enolan, I think, to make a double here. Wingfoot's going to be drawing 4 cards, but they're probably not going to put up hardly any of a... Oh, he stays! Interesting. I don't know if that was the right call. Both of these players do have a big shadow focus. Bilbo over there consorting as hard as he can with wizards. Two of the consortings getting discarded to wipe out the Twilight that was used by Gimli to stack a card on the bottom of the deck. And then Bilbo getting burned a little bit here. Each time the Fellowship moves, if the Twilight pool has 2 or fewer Twilight tokens, add 2 burdens or add 3. He's really taking on those burdens. And his opponent has already showed that he's got cards that can take advantage of them. I don't know if those burdens were worth the Twilight. Yeah, see him. Witch King is coming out regardless. Fellvoice's Call is probably going to pull out a... a Fell Beast. Okay, yeah, that works too. Well, does it? We don't care so much about the Witch King being fierce, because consorting means that he can't get wounded. On the other hand, I suppose that... yeah, if he had pulled out a Pale Blade and then used the Pale Blade to get rid of consorting with wizards, that could have stopped him in his tracks right there. There goes Gimli. Yeah, if that had been a Pale Blade instead of a Fell Beast, that would have been game over, right there. Might be something for Enolan to consider. We don't know exactly what weapons that he had available to him, but yeah, that would have been devastating, because most of the consortings are already in the discard pile, right? 2 of them. Okay, so this is a 3rd one. So there's theoretically a 4th copy of consorting. Okay, well, Wingfoot's Fellowship is not looking good. All those burdens means that the next time that there's an Enquea on the table, that Galadriel's... Well, that Galadriel will probably fall to an Enquea anyway. Just any Nazgul that's sufficiently big is going to eat her alive. And then I think he's going to have a problem, because I don't think that he has that bomb set up just yet. He's down to 26 cards in hand, and he has been furiously stacking as many things as he can on the bottom. But there's a lot of elves down here, and each one of those elves is making this Galadriel's resistance go up. Sneak's coming out to stack yet even more goblins from the discard pile onto the bottom of the deck. Just trying to set up that... Someone set up us the bomb. On the pause, let's just do another sweep through here. I feel like this has not changed at all since I looked at it. We have Lurtz once again on the table, ravaging a fellowship. Well, looks like they just got done there. And then Distali versus Ethanol Groove. The dwarves holding on just fine, it appears, in the face of what is probably more of a classic Moria. And it looks like over here we have Stefan dying to the Eisenorks. All those burdens ending up on Frodo. And then in the case of Mozdref and Weak Sauce, we do have a little bit of setup here in the Outer Dark Waters. We see those tentacles building up. We do see Swept Away down here for those Gondor Wraiths. And the Knights look like they are getting set up nicely as well. But so is the Small Hope. Isildur's not looking too great with all those burdens piled on top of him. And Easterling Captain is going to struggle until there are enough burdens for his ability to let him overwhelm, because until he can hit that overwhelm threshold, those Gondor Wraiths are going to shrug him off all day, every day. Switching back to Wingfoot and Nolan, we have just the dredges here of these goblins, the ones that were not worthy enough to make it into the goblin bomb. And what do we have here? We have supporting fire, make it up strength +2. Okay, that's just to get it out of her hand. She was not worried about losing that particular skirmish to that strength 5 orc. But then Wingfoot's deck is not about winning with skirmishes, it's about setting the bomb up and exploding. Oh boy, both of these players like to take their time. Let's go watch the Balrog do something. So it looks like we just had the Balrog add a whole bunch of threats because of a whole bunch of archery that was being utilized. With all those wounds on that Balrog, Lady of Athelion is going to shrug him off. And poor Gollum is only strength 1. I'm sorry, 2. He doubled his strength in one move. What a Chad. Distali seems to be holding off the Easterlings pretty decently. He's got enough sacrificial lambs that he can throw bodies in front of the problem if he needs to. And then Mozdref versus Weak Sauce. Like I mentioned before, the Gondor Wraiths do not care about the strength until it gets so high that they are able to be overwhelmed. So yeah, that will keep plodding forward that way. Okay, let's see. So we have Eregion Hills here adding a burden, leaving Bilbo quite close to corruption here. He can no longer use the burdens to block the Twilight adding effect of his own game text. And here comes Unquea. So Unquea is going to exert 3 times and kill that Galadriel, who I think is going... Nope, that's the regroup phase 1. Never mind. So that's going to be a dead Galadriel, and then I think shortly thereafter it will be a dead Bilbo, because Bilbo does not have any sort of weapons or anything. Didn't matter how well the bomb got set up, it did not even have a chance to go off. And there it goes. So Inolan is our undefeated player here for this particular tournament. He has made it to the top. He is going to earn 1 additional point for his victory over everybody else. So I believe he's going to walk away from this tournament with 3 circuit points, which is going to make his record look as good as most of Basmelis's tournament entries. So now let's take a look at this. So Balrog69 has just used and the Red Dawn, discarding her hand to apply all sorts of wounds across the field and heal up some of his own guys. Some of our own guys. We have a troop here that can be very annoying. We have the Saruman, Keeper of Isengard, keeping his guys alive. Oh, so we have Lathspell holding off Grima, Chief Counselor. There are, in fact, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, right in the fellowship. Don't even have to look at the support area. So Saruman managed to keep that troop alive even though it was exhausted, and now he's exerting once to make the troop of Uruk-hai fierce, who is holding a spear. So now we should see these 2 fierce Isengard Uruk-hai do some damage. Aragorn can use his ability to pump somebody up, potentially pump Gandalf up with 2 exertions to get her to the point where he could beat Troop. But then if he himself is up against Lurtz, then he's going to die to Lurtz. Okay, so Aragorn stays away from the skirmishes, probably so that he can use his vitality. Radagast takes care of Grima. Amar's going to end up exerting Lurtz, and that puts him at 9. Okay, so we have the since the horse exerted the Uruk-hai, now for Wrath permitted Gandalf to exert to wound Lurtz, and then his own staff allowed him to wound Lurtz. But then Saruman discarded himself to keep the last wound from killing Lurtz. And now, okay, and then there comes Eowyn, Lady Vithillion, with no more protection from Saruman. All those wounds are able to take everybody out. So this site is going to be giving us, I believe, 3 Twilight. Yeah, and then we have 6 Twilight here, so 9 Twilight, plus Radagast's ability allowing Mythlotr to cycle through his deck a little bit more. We should see a few more Uruks. And with Lathspell almost exhausted, so close. So close. That would have been the dream, because that would have killed Lathspell right there, losing both of those vitality artifacts. Yeah, he's still too cracked. I will freely admit it. Okay, let's go take a look at some of these other ones. So we have Distali versus FNL Groove with the Easterlings. Looks like nothing's happening there either. And it looks like Mazrev was able to pull off a corruption win. So what have we got in this conversation here? Down to just 2 more games. We have Balrog playing the Balrog. We have... Ooh, what was that? Okay, Nenya coming out to heal a bunch of guys. Legolas being used once again to wound up somebody so that Eowyn can knock him down. In fact, I feel like we saw this exact sight. Like this exact fight was happening just a little bit ago with a poor little golem that discarded a bunch of cards before he got killed. And then Eowyn going up against a Balrog and making him die. Arrow slits coming down on the table. Let's organize this a little bit. Doo-doo. So Balrog moving on to... Ooh. Moving on to Site 7. The minion archer total is +2 for each unbound companion over 3. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's going to be an additional +4. Saruman's power coming out on a crow, knocking out all those conditions. Lurt's coming down. He himself is an archer. So we're going to be seeing 4 archery plus a 5th from Lurtz. Uruk regular. This, I understand, was a menace back in the day. Crows of Isengard being used to play Uruk Spear on Lurtz. That's an interesting move. Because if... Ah, there he goes. Yeah, using a maneuver action to get rid of the mount on Eomer. Eomer is no longer valiant, and as a result, Latspell is not going to be able to block stuff anymore. Excellent move. If only instead of a regular, that was when Wormtongue was used, because that spear taking out that mount would have been a beautiful moment for Wormtongue to take care of those staves and rings and whatnots. So Aragorn, let's see, he's 8 to 15. He can get up to 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. But that's not going to be enough. He's going to exert himself to avoid getting killed by the overwhelm, but that puts him, that makes him exhausted. Now we have this strength 17 beast.
But Eowyn, Lady of Ithilien, once again. I wish I knew what to do to Lady of Ithilien to bring her down to a reasonable power level. The nerf that we gave her was pretty much negligible. It prevented her use in rainbow wounding situations. Well, mostly, he says. She's sitting down here in a rainbow wounding deck. But that ability is just absolutely bonkers. We might have to do something like that opponent must wound a minion for each wound on each minion skirmishing Eowyn. Limit X, where X is the number of mounted companions you can spot. Something to make it so that she can't just be splashed into this stuff, and that she can't just constantly smack the Balrog on the nose over and over and over again. But I'm just not sure what limiter she really needs. Balrog comes out. A little bit of minion archery total there, but Balrog turns quite a few of those arrow wounds into threats. We've now got 6 threats on the table. If Faramir dies, then that's going to be... Well, I guess it's going to be 6 burdens. And a 1, 2, up, 3, 4. She's like taking a break, coming over here and alternating between wounding people and adding burdens. Well, interesting. The Balrog did manage to get through and actually eat people. Elven Sword getting used once, I believe. Yeah. Trying to just discard cards to get them out. And they move! Okay. Host of Moria getting played. This is a bold move. Now, I do understand that Eowyn is here because there's 3 wounds already on the Balrog. She's going to be able to take him out. But this is Moria we're talking about. If they're able to swarm and punish you here. Nope. That's it. Okay, well that does leave... Okay, all of the archery here is going to get turned into... is going to get turned into threats, except the ones that get blocked by the Goblin Armory. Makes sense. I mean, the Goblin Armories are nice, but they're not essential. What? Oh, wait a minute. No, she didn't do it last turn. Why didn't she kill the Balrog? I'm not sure I understand that. Is it just that, okay, we're sitting here at the end of 2.5 hours of playing? I think that might just be it. So who conceded? MythLotter. Okay, I think the MythLotter, yeah, maybe that was a misplay. Maybe it was just going, my brain is fried for playing for 2.5 hours. Yeah, I could totally see that that being an issue. So now the only game that's left running here is Distali versus FNL Groove. Distali doing his Goblin Patrol Troop deck up against these dwarves. And those dwarves are loaded for bear, it looks like. Lots of items on the table. And then we have Valiant but Foolish being played, probably just for the, yeah, remove 3 to drop 2 cards. There's not nearly enough Twilight on there to... But this is another one of the Flood Insurance cards that could have been used, theoretically, to grab 4 Shadow Conditions from your draw deck.
If you are the kind of shadow that likes to be set up. And like these are some strong orcs, but nothing to write home about. They're all going to get knocked aside by the Dwarf Brigade here, the Durin Brigade. Durin's Demons. Whew, okay, they're on site 7. They have 3 and 5 minutes left on the chess clock. Both of them going one side at a time, it feels like. Frodo having previously been sacrificed for Sam to pick up the ring. $19 Twilight. Quite a bit. Not overwhelming, but it is a lot. And we do have a pretty robust setup over here. And the Red Dawn, 4 tokens on Now for Wrath, meaning you can basically turn 2 exertions into 4... 2 exertions into 2 exertions and 2 wounds. You've got Royal Guard over here with 1 more vitality left to keep Sam alive. Sort of surprised that Leowyn was not used to heal up the Royal Guard, but I guess there's really only 2 sites left. $19 Twilight for a Beasterling setup would use, what is it, 6 or 8 on the Beasterling captain himself, and then would leave 10 more, which could result in an overwhelm, I think. There is 4. So he's only 5. But he's definitely going to want that polearm. There's the polearm. And pulling out an army, okay. Shadow play being used to make sure that Easterling Army has 1 less exertion available. And the Raider Bow being put on that captain so that he's now got much... Oh, interesting. Okay, arrow slits being used to get rid of the halberd. And so now I think this is just going to be Lady Vithilion going nuts. Oh no, it's not even going to get that far. Gonna do it one more time. Could do it again, just exert Aragorn and boom. Knock off that army and then run to 9. No, decides to take him on the normal way. I suppose that Éomer is now going to be strength 14, so he can just do it without using those resources, huh? Okay, there's another burden that's going to be going down because Sam absolutely... Oh, well... Shows what I know. Okay, so we have Sam going up against him. We've got the Royal Guard pumping him up to 8. All right. There's no other pumps. No, never mind. There is a... there's a small hope. This can be used to heal up the Easterling Army that can pump up to 15 plus 2 from here. Would be 17. Oh, that might have been a major blunder. Because now that he's healed, Easterling Army can use that ability
going to exert, make himself strength +2. He'll be 15, and then +2 from small hope. That's going to put him at 17. That's going to be enough to overwhelm Sam. Sam has not yet put on the ring, has he? Oh, wait, we have Aragorn over here. What am I thinking? That's right. Royal Guard also makes that Hobbit valiant. So, all right, never mind. This was never even close. For that particular skirmish, anyway. Oh, but Vision from Afar doing it again. So now he probably has to add the burden, right? He can't. He can't. Oh, wait, no, because he's only got 5 resistance. Oh, okay. All right, Distali gets taken out by a double combo, Vision from Afar, twice on the army, after it seemed like the entire side had been defanged, with the Beastling captain himself being put in the ground. What a wonderful turnaround right at the very end, the very last match of the entire tournament. Let's take a look at our standings here. Wonderful, wonderful last moment. All right, so Enolan comes out on top. He is the one that's going to be getting the most points. I believe it's 3 points. I could be wrong on that, though. Don't hold me to that. Mock will be updating the standings later today. And then after that, we have FNL Groove, Wingfoot 81, and Balrog 69, each going 3-1. And then Distali, Skilled, Stefan 77, Mozdrew, Myth, Lauder, and Mozdrew going 2-2, and then Besmelis and Zolez going 3-1. Or, no, sorry, 2-1 in Besmelis' case. It looks like he dropped out for that last one. Okay, what an event. Quite a few amazing games there. A very explosive finish there that is leaving me a bit speechless. We will make sure to get the all the decks and the replays posted on the Last Homely House tonight. And we will also make sure that the standings are posted so that everybody can see what exactly all the point values are for everybody. Now that this is the second month that we have ran this, that's now 4 events that have been ran. So if there's anybody that has attended all 4 events, they could, in theory, have gotten their best 4 point values. So starting next month, we may start seeing people trying to enter these events just to improve their score as opposed to adding to it, if that makes sense. Okay, we will get this posted up to YouTube later today, though, as well. So thank you to everybody for joining. Congratulations to the winner. Congratulations, and thank you to everybody who participated. It's been a great event, and we will see you all this time next month. This is ketura signing off.